Our thanks to Pierre Thomas. And we do have some breaking news now. President Trump has just issued a national security proclamation that restricts the ability of foreign nationals from certain countries from entering the U.S. The order applies to 12 countries, including Afghanistan, Haiti, Iran, and Somalia. People from 7 countries will have a partial restriction. The president cited national security concerns. For more on this, let's bring in constitutional law professor James Sample. Thanks so much for joining us, James. We saw a similar move in Trump's first term. It was challenged in court. The courts weighed in back then. Bring us up to speed on the legality of this.
That's absolutely right. We did see a similar move in the first term, and the courts sort of reined it in, and then it got refined a little bit more, and then they reined it in again, and it got refined a little bit more to the point where it was ultimately deemed constitutionally acceptable. You know, that was often referred to because of the terminology in that particular instance that had been used in the campaign as a Muslim ban, and then it was by broadening it out to countries that weren't necessarily as easily identified by a particular ethnic or religious faith to other countries, that ended up being a deal making it more amenable to constitutional scrutiny. In this particular instance, obviously, in the wake of some national security instances, and particularly I think that the White House proclamation here ties this to the incident in Boulder. This is a broader scope and not necessarily targeted at any one particular ethnicity, but there are countries. The president has broad authority over national security matters. The president has broad authority over immigration matters. But as we have seen in other contexts, whether it's Tren de Aragua and Venezuelan immigrants, there will still need to be some vetting of this on a constitutional level, and broad authority doesn't mean plenary, unchecked power.
So basically, you say that you do expect that there is going to be some vetting. Do you then expect that this will be challenged in courts?
I think that that's the right question. I think it will inevitably. I don't think there's any question at all that it will be challenged. On my first blush, and this is only breaking in the last 30 minutes or so, this looks like it will be more likely to stand up than the initial Muslim ban certainly was to challenge. But I think that in this day and age, I mean, particularly with the aggressiveness of the Trump administration in the first now 140 days or so, the overreach and then having to get pulled back has become a theme, a common theme, really across the spectrum of topics when it comes to the Constitution and comes to the relationship between the presidential power and the Constitution being checked by the courts. Yes, I think this will be challenged. I think it's too early to say whether or not it will be successfully challenged.
And as you mentioned, this is breaking in this moment. So we're just all starting to get our eyes on this proclamation. Based on what you've seen so far, does anything in particular stick out to you?
Well, I mean, there's certainly some geographic commonality to the countries, but then there's also, there are exceptions to that commonality. And I think that that's probably savvy on the part of the White House. I suspect that whoever's really behind this, it's probably not Donald Trump, it's probably Stephen Miller or others in the inner circle of the White House. They learned some lessons from 2016, and I think that what stands out to me here is that it is not as easily susceptible to the very obvious charge of targeted discrimination on race or religion, the so-called suspect classifications that the initial Muslim ban was. So I think that what stands out to me, to answer your question, is they are learning some of the lessons that they didn't know from the first administration.
James Sample, our thanks to you. Really appreciate your insight.
Thank you.